Yo, what's up, people? Welcome to episode 3 of the Closed and Paid Chill Cast. One of my clients, Mark, called it the Chilled and Paid podcast.
I
Oh
like
dear.
that. As of now, it just says close and paid podcast. So I like renaming it every podcast.
Yeah, for sure. But anyway, let's get into things real quick. So, just something I've been thinking about lately is kind of well, many topics, but like sales resistance and why we get it. Because God knows how many calls I review every week. It's kind of ridiculous, but I see constant sales resistance from prospects just pushing back and not being comfortable. And it's like, why is it happening? I guess. Why is it happening? And what can we do to counteract it? Because some people just keep accepting it and don't change their ways. Don't know what you think about that, right?
I think a lot of times it's funny because you can notice very quickly when like you just have some closer who's like just trying to like go through a sales script as opposed to like actually have a conversation with them. And I feel like a lot of times it's not even like sales resistance as much as it is just like conversational, like just being normal resistance.
It's kind of mental. And sometimes I'm watching, I'm like, we don't even need to go into anything to do with sales tactics, anything to do with closing. The big issue here is you cannot even just be a human and chat to a human. That this is a big issue across so many people. Awkward as fuck conversations, unfortunately. And I think everyone has this ability to assess, right? You can sense there is an awkwardness in the room. That this conversation is a bit fucked up at the start. We don't know each other, right? And there's kind of tension there. No one knows how to just address the tension and get it away. And the prospect's fucking literally praying, bro, to God. Like this person in front is gonna notice and take it all away. But no, we carry on and it's fucking awkward. So yeah, this episode is about I don't know, stop being fucking awkward, I guess.
Yeah, stop being fucking weird. I like that.
What happened the other day on that review? I think I reviewed a call. Yeah, okay, let's even start with the start of a call and the perception, right? And what you see in front of you, because that invites fucking sales resistance in itself, right? Ryan, what you're speaking to me, I'm on a sales call right now, right? What's your overall impression, my friend?
English accent, probably a smart guy. That's about it. He's wearing
Yeah, there we
glasses.
go. That's fucking good enough, right?
Yeah.
Wearing glasses, English accent, wearing a shirt, probably a smart guy, probably is good enough, right? And but do you know what? I'm in my bedroom, right? So that's something I don't want to um it's digging myself a hole in a way, put it that way. Anyone who's a wealthy business person, B2B, takes themselves seriously, they don't want to speak to someone in the fucking bedroom, right? Have a professional background. That's just a starter. Easy, right? And this is coming, by the way, because I reviewed a sales call where closer, a client of ours, was on a call, and the guy across from him, wealthy business owner, agency owner, like many clients. The guy obviously like knew he was, let's not say fucking, he wasn't top G, but like he had a slight ego, right? And from what he saw in front of him, he was just not impressed. Like, wait a minute, I'm going to sell to you in your bedroom with a fucking blue light above you, and you're wearing like a shirt as if you literally just came back from the bar. If I was him, I would have been the same. Like, no chance. And
Big
it's like
trophies in the background.
any of that kind of
Childhood
shit.
achievements, yeah.
So like sales resistance from the very start because of just how you are being perceived, unfortunately. Then again, you get sales resistance a lot of the time as well from not setting like you and me know this a lot. We when we work with people, sometimes what we do is we just set people's intro and we set people's intentions properly. Like this is the first thing we do. Sometimes once people just do that, they start to get this massive increase in close percentage, and it's like they're like, "What? Wait, how's the hell has that happened?" Well, it's like the prospect suddenly feels trust. Like there's actual structure to what you're doing. You intro well, you set the intention correctly, and you ask a very good first question. Like the first 5 minutes, so fucking important.
Mhm.
Need I go on?
Yeah, I think like one thing to add from that, it's so funny because I feel like sometimes I'll like listen to calls too, and like obviously I've been in this situation before. It's like you want to like get right into it and just start like running through your script or some shit, but like no one actually understands like sort of like the headspace, the mindset, education, qualification, or just like where the prospect is at, like sort of in this like buying journey. Like, do they watch pre-call materials? Are they familiar with you? Do they know what the offer is? Like simple stuff like that. I feel like the closer never tries to understand it and they just like run right through shit. And then like they're sitting there like, oh yeah, I was trying to ask these, NEPQ implication goal questions. And it's like, hey bro, they don't even know what you do yet, and you just come across so fucking weird and it creates that sales resistance because they're like, they see you as just like some weird, corny salesperson as opposed to like an actual human being who you're trying to like help with a decision about something they should or should not do with their business. And it just always comes across super weird.
Blows my mind. But we're here to help. We're here to help. Um, I think I tweeted the other day, maybe yesterday. People say, "Oh, they prospects keep getting annoyed with me. Like I ask all these questions, really good questions, and they seem to just get annoyed." And we're like, "Okay, right, let's have a look. Did you let them know at the start that you were just simply going to ask a lot of questions? No? Maybe that's it. You know? Do you think
Yeah.
I'm going to get on a sales call and you're going to sell to me? Like I'm not going to sit there continually just asking questions. If they all seem intelligent, in order, they all make sense as if we're going in a direction, I'll let it keep going. But I never hear that. It's 20 questions in the most fucking scattered way you would ever think about. So the first question might be okay. You wouldn't believe halfway through this conversation, one of the questions is, "Wait a minute, John. What do you do again?" I'm like, "Wait a minute. You asking all these questions and like you don't know what he's. Do you know how stupid that looks, right?" And I'm not blowing my own trumpet or our own trumpet here, but the framework for the closing page script, how we build scripts, is, and the reason I put it in this order is because people normally do this back and forth at the start and they get into discovery, but they kind of have this mix of discovery, understanding someone and their business and stuff, and then you know their pains and challenges, and it's this intermixed thing. And I would often see sales resistance in between, because what happens is you start asking these questions about what their pains and challenges, and suddenly in between is this like, wait, how much do you kind of make? What's your profit margins? It's incredibly salesy now because all it looks like is you've tried to get their pain, now understand their profit margins, so you can just know how to pitch, where to pitch, right? Of course, you're a sales guy, like that's something you should be doing, but the whole data collection where you're understanding someone, their business, and everything they do, I like to take that like completely out of the equation. So don't have those questions anywhere close to the challenges and the pains question, right? And I do this by the first thing we do in the call to kind of get to know each other, right? The rapport, the breaking the ice is understanding each other, right? And so the first question I get everyone to ask is, John, so do you want to just let's start by you giving me a high level overview of your business, what you got going on, life story, not essential, right? Tiny bit of humor. And then everyone loves starting, everyone loves to talk about themselves, right? And then this moves into inquisitive questions, we call it. So they finish, and you go, amazing. I mean, looks like you're successful. How long have you been doing this? Got it, understood. I know, like a general client, like how much is the average order value? What's the lifetime value of that? Ah, interesting. And these questions now seem inquisitive, organic. They seem as if uh, they're in order, so to speak. And what I'm doing at the start of these calls is I'm understanding and painting a picture for myself, right? So that when I come down the line, I've set the intentions, told them looking for yes or no, and I go into pains and challenges and motivation. I know everything about the business. I don't have to be like considering any stupid stuff and potentially inviting sales resistance. So yeah, that's the end of my monologue. If you want to hear any more, guys.
Yeah, like the one thing, a couple things I guess I'll add on top of that is like you'll see that if people like kind of don't do that, like just get a rundown of the situation, just kind of tie it off and like proceed with a normal sales call. it'll be like 20 minutes in, they're still doing like some discovery, and they'll be like, yeah, so what do you do again? And like even worse is whenever the prospect will be like, yes, so like what do you guys do? And there's like that very so it's like a mutual understanding to start off calls. Like, okay, give me a rundown about you. Okay, cool. Do you like are you familiar with us at all? And it just start things off on like a very competent note. It blows my mind how people like proceed with calls. I think this was we'd see this a lot more like in the very beginning of the group before people started like implementing the entire framework, where they'd listen to a call and be like, yeah, I don't know why I didn't close. And then 20 minutes in the call, they're asking the prospect what they actually do. And then 25 minutes in the call, the prospect's asking them what they do. It's like, bro, none of you have any idea what's going on in this call. Like, no wonder. It's again, not even it's sales resistance, yeah, but it's like just conversational friction. Like nothing makes any fucking sense. You're both just having two separate conversations. And it is like a higher level thing to see from like an outside perspective. Like it might be hard to realize because you're as a closer just kind of like reading through a script and you don't get like the macro sense of stuff like that. But I think from like just having someone else like review the calls and listen to stuff like that, it is always like blatantly obvious, but sometimes hard to see from like the inside perspective of a closer just trying to get through their script, you know?
Yeah, I think also if you're a closer, it's hard to get that outside perspective. And then
Mhm.
when you maybe someone gives it you, you're like, oh shit, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You know? So starting off the calls and understanding them, but then returning the favor and being like, what do you know about us? Like, how great is it? Because not only do you now get to understand how educated they are and how much research they've done into it, right? But it's just a normal interaction where we're going to just understand each other to a degree before we actually start talking about the product, right? And it's just actual normal conversation. God knows what else to add to that. I think people understand understand what we're trying to get at there.
Yeah, one thing to include because I feel like every time I'll like show someone sort of like the set intentions, so to speak. I think everyone's like so used to just getting in. Like one of the first things they say is like, "All right, cool. Look, I'm gonna ask you some questions. I'm gonna ask you some questions," and then they'll like see our stuff and they'll be like, "And I'm just looking for a yes or no," and they'll say that like 30 seconds into the call, which it's still kind of like the wrong idea because you don't even know if they're a person that you could really like sell to yet, right? And something I always say a lot, I found myself writing this a lot when I'm speaking to people in the group of like a lot of times the dynamic, at least in the beginning, is like navigating whether there is like a decision to be had, a call to be had, whether they're qualified or not. And so it's like getting all that stuff out the way. Like you ask some situation questions, you know their ICP, you understand if they've watched content on you, like where they're at, if they understand the offer to begin with. Um, and then you could be like, yeah, cool, we'll get through everything. I'm just looking for a yes or no. And it makes a lot of sense because you already have stuff like that out of the way, as opposed to just getting on a call with someone like, yeah, cool, we'll get through it looking for a yes or no when they still don't know shit about you. And I think that still leads to sales resistance.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's actually very true. When you first come into the call, even though look, I can do it and I've done it, like set the intention very early before you even have this kind of
Mhm.
little interaction. It's doable, right? But as you say, it can be a bit awkward because there is a slight bit of assessment to be had
Yeah.
before it actually becomes obvious that that is a good statement to make. Um, so it is weird if I just came straight up to you, we don't know anything about each other, and then I'm just like, by the way, looking for yes or no. You can understand why it could be, resistance to that.
Mhm.
But which is why a setter, that's their kind of job. If whether they speak to a setter on a video call, then book to you, or setter calls them and qualifies just before the call, it's their job as well to assess, can I be doing this yes or no at the start of the call? Because they shouldn't be speaking to me otherwise. So if you're listening to this and you're a closer, start fucking getting on top of the setters. Start. Let me talk about this. We've got 5 minutes here. I don't know how many of you listening to this face what we call kind of type A personalities, right? Where I love speaking to you guys because it's kind of just it's a bit of a I know what's his name on Twitter. Tristan says like he doesn't just chooses to not engage in this kind of frame battle, which is funny in a way
He's coming around
because
to
I
it.
get it, but it's like also you can't like it's an automatic default thing. You're always in a frame battle no matter who you're speaking to. But some people you speak to are kind sometimes aware of it, or it just happens naturally where they always try and get the upper hand, etc. But anyway, speaking to type A personalities, where it's not always a flame battle, but it's like, potentially try and understand their way or what their reason for being short with you, right? Type A personality sometimes ego, very short to the point, not giving you much to work with, and it's like you generally think, why the fuck are we on the call? You know, for me, it's about kind of also understanding being in their shoes. Are they being like this because they've had bad experiences on sales calls, right? So it's like they've been forcefully sold to or in a scammy way and kind of convinced, and then they've invested and it's turned out bad. We all know sales gets a bad rap. Maybe I said this on the last one call, but it's kind of the way sales is taught is this whole kind of convincing method. So for me, getting ahead of type A personalities, whether it's to do with ego and they're just like thinking they're top G, or whether they've had a bad experience, if we can understand maybe potentially why, we can also be empathetic in a way to understand. We can also get ahead of it. And one little thing that I want to tell people, a bit of source here, is that I've been jumping ahead of this on calls. Kind of funny because I don't know what it is. The more years you spend in this arena, so to speak, a face type A personality is less and less. And I don't know if that's because of just how I'm perceived on calls or what. However, nowadays I kind of just jump ahead of that conversation. So before it even happens, before they even get a chance to be short with me, to give me one word answers and to not give me much to work with, etc., I break the ice, right? And I say, John, before I get into things, I want to go ahead and let me break the ice, right? So number one, like just in terms of intros, I'm Rich. You already know that, but I am the director at this company, and I've been doing this for years, and I can go in more to my background later on in the call if you want me to. On top of that, John, a few things just to kind of help you understand before this call is I always tell people, be yourself, be open, be honest, expand on things. I say that, by the way, because sometimes prospects come to these calls and they're very short and they're defensive and got hands up and they give me one word answers. I understand to a degree, but it's not conducive to these open, honest conversations, which is what we want, right? And the last thing is, I just want to let you know, I'm not here to force anything on you, no scammy tactics and to make you commit, okay? But by the end of the call, I'm just really looking for a definitive decision, right? So whether it's a no, whether it's a yes, both are fine, right? Is that fine with you, John? Right? And then that's it. And like, not only have I jumped ahead and I've stopped any potential kind of sales resistance, or I've stopped them being very short with me because they've got this big ego and whatever, I've also allowed them to understand, like, I'm not going to do any slimy sales tactics, so they kind of sit back maybe a bit. And I also pretty much just get the whole yes or no out of the way as well, in a very kind of empathetic manner, you could say, right? It's been working super well. So yeah, that's a bit of sauce for you. We've done 20 minutes. Don't know where the fuck Ryan is. God knows what happened. But you got 5 minutes of this. So see you soon, guys.
Do you not fucking see